we go. Hey, what's shaking? This is Sonny, the 419 guy, and I'm here with Josh Courtney, and he just purchased this land. How long ago?
It's been about a year and a half, I think,
Yeah.
around February or March,
And this
close
is
to 2 years.
Yeah, this is unbelievable. I'm from Clyde, and I don't know too much about this, but I've been hearing about it, and they've been telling me about this celery farm, right?
Yes.
And this is what you call this, a gorge?
Yeah, a gorge, a valley. It's kind of a green tree reservoir. It's got the Cleveland Avenue, when it was built in 1970, basically caused the entire property to be dammed.
Wow.
So at one point it all drained, and it drained right through where Cleveland Avenue is now.
Wow. And, for reference, we're right behind Celery Street, right behind this camera. So we're right here behind Celery. And so how many years ago would we have saw celery here, down through here? How many years ago you think?
There's a gentleman on State Street that owns Toys for Trucks business.
Yeah.
When I stopped in and spoke with him, he indicated that he picked celery here in the early 1950s when he was 12 years old.
Wow.
Based on what I found, I believe celery production was pretty much finished by the mid-50s or so.
Okay.
There may have been a later owner, a Norm Fossey, that may have grown some celery, but I don't think it was any type of farm production or larger type process by then.
What made you want to buy this? Is there some connection here?
No connection at all. My family and I are transplants to the area.
Okay, so you're coming from where are you coming from?
We've bounced all over the country, really, for my wife's job. So we made it here to northern Ohio after about 4 or 5 months in Cincinnati, just a short stop. We were in Chicago before that, and we've been really fortunate to have lots of wonderful neighbors and get to be a part of a lot of different communities and kind of see how things are done in different ways, whether it's government,
right, yeah,
or
the codes and ethics, and how each city has different ones, I'm sure.
So for years, for the last several years, my wife and I talked about buying a recreational piece of property.
Right.
I grew up on kind of in the country and on a horse farm, and it just wasn't a normal type of life for me to be living, from city to city to city. So we began looking in Cincinnati, and then we moved to northern Ohio. We continued our look for 8 or 10 acres of recreational property somewhere in the country to, maybe cut some trails and mushroom hunt or camp or just kind of enjoy. And I found myself looking 2, 3, 4 hours away from our home, trying to find a piece of property that, one, we could afford, and two, that was still within a manageable distance to be able to use. And my wife works here in the Fremont area, and when I saw this property listed for sale, it was much cheaper than any of the other properties I'd looked at in the area. And when I got here and saw it, I understood why. The entire property was just kind of overgrown. Various points along the banks or along the cliff edges, there was litter, either from previous neighbors in decades past, or simply that items that were thrown from cars on the side of Siler that made their way back here. The wind blows everything down into the gorge, and the first time I walked through the property, I was just amazed at the amount of trash and kind of surface pollution. I didn't see any real evidence of dumping, so to speak, of industrial type dumping, but there's decades worth of just kind of neglect. Some folks have trespassed into the cemetery after hours and thrown trash or rolled a tire down the side, and so I was really just kind of sad. The cemetery is a beautiful property. It's very well maintained, and then the convent, the Pines, is attached on the other side of the cemetery.
Beautiful, a lot of deer.
I found documents, going back to the 20s where they talk about the pines in this area as one of the most beautiful sites in all of Ohio.
Yeah.
And then here 90 years later, I'm walking through over the top of
Right.
tires,
right on the
broken
other
glass.
side of it. Here's
Exactly.
this is. Wow. So what do you envision here? What's the plan?
The idea is just to make whatever steps are necessary to restore the property to a more natural state. I don't have any
Set
grand
plan,
grand illusion, idea that it's going to be the cemetery farm again, or
Right.
that I think what's here now kind of would let a lot of people see what the black swamp may have originally looked like.
Yeah, that's what I first saw. When I first saw it, it looks like
it's really
like
just
in Bowling Green or something.
It's a really unique property. The ground, the dirt is just the blackest, most fertile soil around.
It does look like it.
So we're hoping as we clean up and restore the property that there's opportunities around the periphery for either small vegetable plots, wildflowers. The area behind us here, all along the edge of the cliff. This time last year, you wouldn't have this view.
Really?
So invasive honeysuckle has completely kind of infected this property in addition to the trash. And a lot of what we're doing is removing those invasive species and then replanting. So the area behind you that's been cleared of the invasive species has been replanted in deer plot. There's winter peas, wheat, ryegrass, things like that.
Yeah. So you guys already been out here working?
I've spent the first year working by hand, doing everything I could, pulling the honeysuckle out that I could manage. And then we were able to get a small piece of equipment earlier this year in May. And transformation has really kind of taken off since then.
Man, so hopefully somebody that sees this, maybe they have some more history for you, and some.
We hope. It seems like the older generation in the community, still remembers when this was a celery garden.
Sure,
a lot of the neighbors that live here in the area actually have lived here for 40 and 50 years.
Wow.
And they remember, say as kids playing down in the gorge. there used to be a pond on each side of Cleveland Avenue there, and so a lot of them talk about hunting frogs and just kind of playing.
In the winter, did they maybe ice skate?
I don't know if on which side of the street that might have occurred, but I've heard stories of that as well.
I can see that.
What's funny, it's kind of been overgrown and forgotten for so long
That's true.
Being new to the area myself, I didn't know what stories were stories and what had smidgets of truth in it. So I heard for the first several months, or several people told me this was a junkyard.
Really?
And I'm happy to report that that's not true in my opinion at all. I know there was an actual junkyard across the street. That's been cleaned up over the years. There may have been illegal dumping on this property over the years, but it wasn't an actual junkyard at all.
Wow, I know you gave me a lot of information, which I will turn around and share with everybody else as well. But so thanks for letting me come out and check it out.
Yeah, no problem.
It does look better than the last time I was here. I remember it was been up for sale for a little while, and my wife did actually show it to somebody, and it does look different. And so you've done a good job already.
Well, the first thing we did on the bottom is tried to establish a trail.
I see that, yeah. And that's nice.
And the purpose is really to get to the trash.
Yeah.
So having one trail go along the bottom instead of having to walk on the hills and up and down, it's really made it easier. So now anything I find on the hill, I can throw to the bottom,
right?
And then with a four-wheeler or the tractor, I can access that spot, pick it up, put it in the wagon. And the neighbors, the first several months, I was loading the trash into my trailer in buckets, taking it, paying to dispose of it at the county, at the Ottawa Sandusky landfill. Since then, several neighbors have pitched in, and one of the businesses, it's Smith Painting. They're on Siler, and they've actually helped a ton. They've allowed us to use their dumpster.
Wow.
So on you know, the day before it dumps, I come down. If there's any room left, they've welcomed me to either through the litter pickup that we're doing on the streets,
Right.
or the litter pickup here in the celery gardens. They've helped with that.
That's awesome.
Along with other, you know, all the
Yeah.
neighbors that are touching us.
I'm sure that they enjoy seeing you here doing it too. You know, wow, somebody's cleaning this up. Let's help them out.
They've been very supportive. I was worried at first. This edge here that I own is in these folks' backyards. All the neighbors
Okay.
on Siler own up until a certain point, and then I own the very edge of
Okay.
the cliff. So it's probably been 40 or 50 years since they had some random guy walking around in what amounts to the edge of their backyard. So, you know, we really appreciate how nice they've been, and boy, they'll wave their hands and offer a drink, or several have, invited me to dinner, and man, it's made
That's
a big
awesome.
difference out here.
I'm glad to hear that.
So,
Well, good luck to you, sir. We'll keep an eye on it over the next few months and into the summer. I'm sure things will start looking a lot better.
yeah, thank you for your interest as well.
Thanks for